Good evening. I'd like to call the special board meeting for the Village of Cary for Tuesday, November 27, 2018 to order with roll call, please.
Kostler. Here. McAlpine.
Here.
Kraus. Here. Betts.
Here.
Weinhammer.
Here.
Cavelli.
Here.
Thank you. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do you want to see if there's anybody? Is there a list of it? We'll now move to the open forum where the public is invited to speak on anything that's not otherwise on the agenda. I was just informed by our council that since this is a special meeting, we're only able to discuss what is on the special meeting agenda. I'd be more than happy to give a little latitude. If people want to talk about our great snow removal or the success of the Cary Grove Children's, I'll be happy to hear those kind of comments. But if there's anything else that is not pertaining to tonight's meeting, I'll ask you to attend the next meeting and you can come to the open forum where it would be a regular board meeting. But since this is a special village board meeting, we have different rules that I was just told we have to follow. The item that we have on the agenda today is a discussion and adoption of a proposed resolution repudiating the Calvary report and condemning the use of taxpayer funds for politically motivated investigations. I'll turn this over to Trustee Kostler since he's the one that asked for the special.
Procedurally, do we have a motion?
I'll make the to approve the resolution repudiating
Condemning the use of taxpayer funds for politically motivated investigations. Second.
Motion, okay. And about me leading discussion on this, I do appreciate the board coming out on a night that is not normally scheduled to discuss this, but it seems pertinent to what is happening in our community and the leaks that are occurring within this board. So this, what is probably best to do is go through this resolution point by point and see where each member of this board sits. And I think that would be the best direction to take it, starting off with number one of the resolution. The investigation report and any and all findings and conclusions contained within are hereby rejected and repudiated by the Village Board of Cary. And the report is found to be unauthorized, baseless, prejudicial, and political as follows. So I think I'm going to leave it at that, and I would like to see what other members of the board have to, what their opinions are on that statement, and we'll go from there.
Well, I'll start off. This was an unauthorized report. According to section 3.04.040 in our village code, the president and/or other persons designated by the corporate authorities may sign on behalf of the village any contract authorized by the corporate authority entered into without the authority of the president and the board of trustees.
So the contract that was entered to retain this attorney was never approved by the board. So that in and of itself, this was never authorized by the board, these expenditures. We ended up approving the expenditure for this recently because we were told that if we don't, we would get sued. And it did not make sense to spend more taxpayer money on this. So it was approved. This is also very prejudicial. It's a one-sided report. When you read it, there is only interviews from Mayor Koenig, Ellen McAlpine, and Trustee Kraus. So Chris Betts, who Ellen reportedly talked to first, myself and Trustee Weinhammer were never even interviewed. When the attorney asked to meet with Trustee Kostler, he can speak more about this for himself, but he's a pilot, he was out of town. Then when he did try and meet with the attorney and asked what was the basis of the complaint, he basically got nowhere with that. So she ended up closing her report without getting his side of the story. You cannot complete a report with only one side of the story. That's
It's baseless. And how this came about, I believe, is for political purposes. This is to keep trustee Kostler at the next election.
Any other comments?
Well, I'll make a comment.
Go ahead.
As for the very beginning, trustee Kostler didn't read the very beginning where it says, whereas the mayor and village administrator initiated an unauthorized investigation of Jim Kostler, a village elected trustee purportedly pursuant to the Village of Cary Employee Handbook and the State Officials and Employees Ethics Act, and it states that act, neither of which apply to personal issues between the village elected officials, which culminated in a biased and prejudiced report prepared by Angler Callaway, Baston and Sraga LLC, and dated March 29, 2018, as the investigation report. That was the prelude for it. With regards to that comment, I will say unequivocally, I had no political motivation when I filed this. I had reached out to every board member here. This had escalated to a point, this is not a one-item type of thing. This is going on for a couple of years. Starting with something as simple as trustee Kostler always saying my name incorrectly, which is very minor, but it's just the start of a pattern. Him putting out emails, things like my son had done libelous things, and when I asked him about it, he refused to give me any details and didn't want to discuss it. Then it got escalated to a point where he went to my daughter's place of employment and said some inappropriate things. Got to the next point where he actually filed a false police report against my husband, stating that he was threatened by a public official right here. If he felt that way, he could have walked right back down here, and the chief of police was here at our meeting. Or he could have walked next door to our police station that's attached here. He chose not to do that. Instead, at 9:30 at night, my doorbell rings. My children are up in their bedrooms, and everyone is aroused saying, what is going on? The police are here making this accusation because my husband requested that he say my name properly. There's also a videotape that shows that there was nothing like that going on. So that kind of stuff was going on. Then it got to the next point where at a board meeting, he just erupted in what I can just state as some vile and harassing and bullying comments to me about how he hated me, how me and my chamber friends he hated, and that it made him sick that he actually had to sit next to me, that I discussed him, that I'm a felon, and it goes on a litany of this type of thing. Well, at that point, I finally said, enough. I've had it. I do not deserve to be treated like this. I waited, I talked to Chris Betts and I walked up and I wrote down what occurred. I waited 48 hours because I'm a firm believer that you don't do that. Sent out the email to everyone explaining what had just occurred. Additionally, that night he went on Facebook. I was a felon and my felonious behavior and all kinds of really, to me, libelous statements about me. I felt like this had gotten out of control. I reached out, I wanted to work directly with trustee Kostler to work this out. Refused to meet with me. I asked our village administrator to meet with me, to act as a broker, said maybe the three of us could meet. He refused that. I reached out then to our board members. I asked them what they thought about it. I did hear back from trustee Kraus and trustee Betts that they felt like this was just absolutely unacceptable behavior. Didn't hear from trustee Cavelli or trustee Weinhammer, so I waited until after the holidays, and about the middle of January, I followed up with them again to see where they're at with things, and neither one of them wanted to get involved. In fact, I even said to Jennifer, she said, this doesn't involve me, I don't want to have anything to do with this. I responded that it does involve everybody, it involves all of our board members, and that if anyone treated her like that, I would stand up and I would condemn that. So I got to the point where I thought, what's next? What next should I be subjected to? Or when do I say, that's enough? I'm not going to be intimidated. I'm not going to be bullied. I'm not going to be harassed anymore. I had no other options. That's why I finally said, is there anything I can do? And when I was given the harassment policy of the village board, that's the procedure I followed. I never asked for an attorney. I never requested an investigation. If that's the process for when this happens, so be it. But this is not me politically motivated. How could I have known over a year ago that Jim was going to rerun for an office? How do I know that that's what's going to happen? How do I know what anyone's going to do? So to say that it's politically motivated is really an unfair statement. If anything, I feel like the politics have entered it here. Here's where the politics are. You know, this could have been handled, could have been done. I didn't release the report. I've told people here. I've been called by emails from Trustee Cavelli and Trustee Weinhammer. There was emails out there saying, oh, here's who we think could have done it. You know, either Trustee McAlpine or the mayor. And you know what? They're evil. Whoever did this is evil. Oh, by the way, let's go after your faith. Let's go after the fact that you're Catholic and say things like that and condone that. There is no place. We don't allow bullying in our classrooms. Let's stop it in a boardroom. This is ridiculous.
We had cleared it up in executive session, and we had spoken about this. And somehow that
Leaked only, that was the only document that got leaked.
document didn't get leaked. And that was my concern all along, is that if this document was made public, but without some sort of explanation behind it, that it does not tell the full story and the full span of events that had happened. And that is what we spoke about in executive session. And somebody on this board released that document. Okay, not both parts, just the first part. For that very reason, it's politically motivated. And Ellen, I don't think it was you. Okay, I don't think you released it. I do think it was someone else on this board. So that being said, that's why this special meeting was called, because you know what? The other side needs to get out. You can't just have one side out there and not the other.
Be explained.
A couple things that you said. He filed a false police report. Was he ever charged with that?
No, because I didn't want to go any
So that's
further with
not
it.
a false police report. So that is not a correct statement. He would
Okay.
not file a false police
You're right,
report.
I am not a police
There may not
officer.
have been enough probable cause to
But he did not file a false police report. There's a huge difference there because that is a felony.
So that did not occur.
I didn't claim that he was a felon. Never have I said that.
But you said he filed a false police report. So I'm
Appreciate that. But the fact still remained that if he felt threatened, he had other options available.
So
He
did
could
you.
have come down here.
So did you.
And gotten, I didn't do anything. I didn't
I'm
file
saying
anything.
if you felt threatened, you had other options available.
When did I say I felt threatened? When did I say I felt threatened?
Okay.
You know, can we
Uncomfortable.
please
Do I
keep
pick
the
apart
comments
this
down?
report? I can pick apart this report, but maybe uncomfortable is a better word than
Correct.
Did you have something
So
to
that's
say?
question one.
No, that isn't the end of question one.
No, I'm just, that's where we're at, I thought.
Well, just for clarification purposes, you had an opportunity here. You're saying this was an unauthorized investigation and that there was, we didn't have the right to do this. That's incorrect. We had our previous attorney, Ansel Blink, told us that this is what we should do and this is how we handle a situation like that. Our current counsel has told us this is how we handle a situation like this, and it is within his spending authority.
Council, has he said that?
Can I finish my statement, please? When we've gone back and forth with the various councils that we've had here in the last year, it was determined that that was the best course of action. And for instance, in this past year, you asked for a meeting, and then you wanted village council to attend this meeting with you because you were upset with a couple of our police officers and how they were talking to you or engaging with you on social media, and you wanted to talk about a social media policy. You know, the board paid that bill. We brought an attorney because you wanted to have an attorney because you felt that that was an issue for you. We didn't raise our hand and said, no, we're not going to do this. We wanted you to feel comfortable.
Can we have point of order? So are you staying with the topic here? with
Yes,
what
we're talking
discussing?
about number one.
But you were kind of going off on a tangent.
I'm not going off on a tangent. I'm just relaying the fact that he had said that this was an unauthorized
But you did go
investigation.
into something else about social media and other items with bills.
I'm just putting everything into
Okay,
context.
so
about
let's stay on topic.
Thank you for that, Trustee Weinhammer. I appreciate that. So there is opportunities for this board to work together to make sure that they're being treated fairly and that they're being represented by whatever legal counsel that we have. Mr. Coster, you wanted to add something to that?
Yeah. I have been saying for 9 months, point me to the statute, code, or regulation that allows you to do this, and nobody has answered me. I have said this till I'm blue in the face, and I have not gotten an answer. So somebody please give it to me right now.
Attorney Euler, can you answer that question?
This question has come up before. The response is that the village administrator, yeah, I understand you have reviewed this portion of the village's code. You asked for our opinion, our firm's opinion on has the authority to spend up to $20,000 on projects, services, repairs. The provisions in the code, one
The other, the $20,000 authorization for the
funds that the code allows for the administrator to enter into arrangements, agreements, contracts, whatever you want to call them, up to $20,000. An expenditure, in essence, at least in my estimation, is a contract. It may not be a written contract, but that would be the basis of the expenditure of money up to $20,000. So that's our opinion. I've offered that before. I understand you have a different interpretation of the code, which is fine.
I don't have a different interpretation of the code per se, but that code doesn't say you can investigate me with just anybody claims something.
I'm not commenting on that piece.
See? So anybody can make a claim, and then they can launch an investigation. There's nothing that authorizes this. And factually, there are procedures here in this village if they're on to the Ethics Commission. And when I brought
last week, he didn't have a good answer.
it, didn't.
Because we don't have an ethics commission.
Oh, there's no
Do you
problem
want to know
there.
why? Because the resolution that was passed in 2004 states that we convene a person that would handle as the chairman for an ethics complaint when an official notarized a complaint for an ethics violation is turned into the village. We did not have an ethics violation turned into the village. We had a harassment complaint turned
That's
into the village.
incorrect. If you look at the complaint, it's the Illinois Ethics Act. Any violation of the Illinois Ethics Act has to go through the Ethics Commission. You just sidestepped it. This was a total political attack to.
Mr. Cossler, would you please
You
refrain
still
from
haven't
making
given-
accusations
still
you
haven't
have
given
no
me
foundation
the
on?
code or law that allows you to do this. Authority. So you have the right to spend money. Okay. That doesn't give you the right to hire an attorney and launch an investigation in which I don't get to respond to allegations. My due process rights were violated. We have I made the last email contact to this investigator. And it was simple. Give me my due process rights. What am I charged with? That's all I want to hear. And let's sit down and talk. The Northwest Herald portrayed it that I didn't want to meet. There's nothing that could be further from the truth. I was the last one to have contact with that investigator. She never responded. 3 weeks later, the investigation is closed.
Mr.
Without my
Cossler, how
input.
many times did the investigator reach out to you and try to set up
I have all the
appointment?
emails. In
How-
fact,
just,
if
answer
anybody
the
wants to
question.
look at any of this stuff, I have it right here.
How many
okay?
times did the investigator reach out to you?
Let's look at
I
that.
believe it was 4.
Let's look at that. I sent her an email on February 16, 2018. I asked for information concerning the allegations. She replied the same day, said, as you're aware, the village has an anti-harassment policy, on and on. So I replied the next day and said, please provide me with a copy of rules, village code, or state statute that I'm accused of violating. Additionally, please provide me with the procedures being used with this process. The next day, she replied, my investigation is being conducted pursuant to the village's harassment policy. I will forward a copy of the policy to you tomorrow morning when I am in my office. She never sends me the policy, never sends it. The same day, I said back to her, I look forward to receiving all the information available concerning these accusations. February 21st, she writes me, Trustee Cossler, just checking in. Do you have some time tomorrow to meet with me? I said, same day, I apologize. My schedule has been very busy with the holiday and the board meeting yesterday. I am leaving the country tomorrow morning and will be on a cruise ship until March 4th. As I am sure you can understand, this has been planned for some time and cannot be moved on short notice. She replies, Trustee Kostler, I will be out of town the week of the 5th, which is March. Can we set a time to meet of March 12th? While I'm still out of the country, she requests again to meet with me on March 12th. On March 6th, I reply, Ms. Callaway, I received your email dated March 2nd upon my return into the country on March 4th. I did have an enjoyable trip, thank you. I'm aware of your desire for a meeting. In my email on February 17th, I requested specific information pertaining to this issue. To date, I am not in receipt of the requested information. As such, I am confounded on the actual claims and unable to educate myself on any allegations. Therefore, I respectfully request before anything. 1, a copy of the retainer agreement between your services. I understand that normal
Those types of documents is not standard protocol, but as a trustee to the Village of Cary, it is within my rights to inspect those records. And that gets to the authority of spending money to do this, and that's why I asked for that. Number 2, I asked for a copy of the rule, ordinance, or state statute I'm accused of violating, which I still haven't gotten an answer on. Number 3, a copy of the rules that govern these proceedings. Number 4, a copy of the complaint against me, which didn't materialize until the investigation was done. I said, additionally, I'm copying this email to Steve Decker, my attorney representing me on this matter. And I never got a response. They closed the investigation without me. I don't think that's fair. I don't think anybody would think that's fair.
Okay, moving on to item B, intentional leak of such
No,
illegally
wait,
created.
we're not done with, hold on. Is somebody going to give me a statute?
Do you have a statute for that?
I think it's the village harassment policy.
Is the expenditure was made under the village administrator's authority to enter into contracts. As has been explained before tonight's meeting, when this matter has been discussed, is there were 2 separate law firms asking if the village could do an investigation. Again, this is my understanding of what happened. But whether or not it was incumbent upon the village to take actions based on the allegations in the complaint. Again, my understanding is the law firm of Ansel Glink looked at those facts, the complaint, the allegations. They consulted with, they have a labor division, labor and employment division at Ansel Glink. They are a local government law firm in Illinois, have been for a long time. They consulted with that division in their firm, and my understanding is their recommendation to the village, as the village's attorney, was to conduct an investigation in this matter. Again, my understanding was then that the village undertook to consult with an outside law firm because there were concerns about using the village attorney, Ansel Glink's office, and what might be perceived to be a biased opinion, a biased interpretation of the law or what had to be done at that point. So the village administrator sought a recommendation for another outside firm that was qualified to look at the facts. The recommendation made to the village administrator at that point was to consult with the law firm of Engler, Callaway, Basden, and Schraga, who also are a local government firm in Illinois. They also have a specialization in labor and employment law. Attorney Lisa Callaway with that firm has done a number of these investigations in the past, at least to my knowledge she has. I'm familiar with the fact that she does these kinds of investigations. She was consulted about this same concern, whether or not these facts, the complaints that were being raised, that Trustee McAlpin has described, warranted action by this village. And the recommendation back to the village administrator from that outside firm, from Lisa Calloway, was that the village undertake to complete an investigation into the allegations. So that is where, it's my understanding, that's where the recommendation came from. And the village administrator determined to enter into a contract with attorney Lisa Calloway to have an investigation completed.
That's correct. In my initial discussions, obviously, I provided the harassment complaint, as I've told the board previously, to our previous village attorney. Asked for advisement, and after talking with the village attorney, it was determined that the best course of action was to proceed to determine if this claim was founded or unfounded.
So can I add one other piece? There's another piece of that, and trustee Kostler has raised this piece, that the investigation report itself set forth the allegations and then the nature of the interviews that took place regarding the investigation. That report, Attorney Calloway's report, did not reach any conclusions. You're suggesting, well, wait a minute. Well, where is the statute that was violated or the regulation that I'm alleged to have violated? I don't think that was part of that investigation. That Attorney Calloway saw that as her charge. There was a subsequent law firm, and that has been raised tonight, that did issue an opinion based on the investigation, finding that there were no legal violations based upon the investigation that you, trustee Kostler, had been found to be in violation of. So whatever the facts were in the investigation, the law firm of Murphy, is it Murphy Rosenthal, was hired to look at the investigation report, and John Murphy's conclusion, Mr. Murphy, who is also a qualified employment attorney, drew the conclusion that you had not committed any legal violations based on any of the allegations that were investigated. Just to finish that piece.
So you made a statement there that she wasn't investigating on any statute. I missed it a little bit, but in the first paragraph of Calloway's report, she says she is investigating pursuant to the village's harassment policy and the State Officials and Employees Ethics Act. Now, I ask you, here's an attorney that is here to protect our village and not me. Did this complaint meet the State Officials Employee Ethics Act?
I don't, my review of that investigation report,
In that investigation that relates to, there are two types of activities that are prohibited under that act that you're referencing, the State Officials Ethics Act.
Right.
Which essentially are campaigning during compensated time or directing employees, public employees, to engage in campaign activities during compensated time. That's illegal. We all know that's illegal. That's prohibited under the act. And the only other actions prohibited under that act are improper gifts to public officials under the act. Other activities, any other issues related to ethical conduct other than those specific instances.
Thank you for pointing that out, Scott, because this doesn't even fall anywhere.
I don't see anything in these allegations that relates to prohibited political activities.
Nor did the complaint mention ethics.
So why was I investigated?
Under the village's harassment policy.
I'm not an employee.
We've had this discussion before.
No, it's not. You can try and gloss over it here, but
I'm not glossing
I've been
over-
asking for 9 months how this got done, and nobody can give me an answer, and nobody still can give me an answer tonight.
Well,
All I know is there was an illegal report done. It was leaked in an effort to defame me. And I'm sorry.
Well, I
It looks very
strongly
bad for
disagree
you.
with that allegation. How it transpired was we a harassment complaint by an elected official. I turned it in our attorney's opinion. Attorney said to do. They were looking at our handbook about the harassment. It was deemed that since both of you are elected officials with our employee handbook, I believe that the determination was that to be a harassment, even if she was, that she was a protected class, like being a minority or a woman or such. Those are protected classes that would, am I correct in stating that?
Those are protected.
Those are protected classes, and that's how she had made on that.
Okay, so I still don't have an answer.
Can I just get clarification on this? Is it an ethics committee that should have went to?
Well, what happens, according to our resolution from 2004, when there is an official documented ethics complaint that comes into the village via certified mail, and it has to be notarized, it's turned into the mayor, and at that time, I have to follow a specific timeline on how to appoint somebody. We appoint somebody that would oversee this, an unbiased third party. We started to do that when we thought that this was the direction that we were going to go. We looked at hiring some retired judges
Wait, when did you start to do that? At what point?
a couple weeks ago.
So when this investigation was closed, it should have been done prior to.
No, ma'am, I disagree, because we were told by our attorneys that this was the direction to go. At no point did they say that this should go to an ethics board. We don't retain an ethics board
So was that
full-time.
Was that found by Jake or was that found by Trustee Kostler?
No, I believe that was found, we got the information from.
The resolution, yeah, village staff acquired the resolution after there was some discussion from trustee Kostler of how an ethics complaint could be filed. And that's when the mayor is referencing this resolution that we located probably 2 weeks ago. But I think,
I guess
just to
that's
have,
my-
to answer your question, though,
Hold on real quick. That's my point, is that this was caught by Trustee Kostler. And why wasn't this caught by staff beforehand?
well, I'd like to have the village attorney talk about the ethics commission and the things that would go before the ethics commission to help explain that. And hopefully that can answer the question a little bit.
Okay, to clarify, the state act is labeled an ethics act. It's not an ethics act. It's not a general scheme to cover all ethical conduct of elected officials. It relates only to the two activities I mentioned, which is you really can't campaign using compensated time, employees that are here in the village. Elected officials can't ask them to work on campaign activities. That's prohibited. That's one of the areas that is prohibited under the act. The other is gifts. Public officials can't accept improper gifts, and individuals can't make improper gifts to elected officials. So the Ethics Act only covers those two areas. It's not a general scheme
Okay.
to govern all ethical conduct. You're required, you being a village, a municipality, school districts, library districts are all required to follow that act to the extent that they prohibit illegal political activities in some fashion, and you prohibit gifts. You have a statute here in Cary, as most municipalities do, that reflects and adopts the state act. Just says we adopt those regulations as to prohibited political activities to get what's called the Gift Ban Act. You don't have to have an ethics advisor. You don't have to have an ethics hearing officer. So the scheme that the village did decide to implement was, in the event that you receive a complaint of a prohibited political activity in Cary or a violation of the Gift Ban Act, that the mayor would appoint a hearing officer to hear that matter. And then those findings would be returned to this board.
So,
That's what your code provides as to the Ethics Act.
Thank you.
so I think we need to simplify this for everybody in the crowd here, because I think everybody's eyes are glazing over as far as what is what. And if there is a complaint filed with the State Official and Employees Ethic Act, it's supposed to go to our Ethics Commission. And as the mayor said, upon receipt of a signed notarized complaint, then there's going to be something done about it. Yet he's making the claim that I made a violation of that act, and they never got a notarized complaint.
No, sir, that's not it at all.
Yes, it is.
It is, no. No, that's
And it
not it
doesn't
at
even
all.
apply. What
I-
did
I-
you? I mean, you just said.
I
have to-
never filed a copy of it. Talked about the harassment policy. There was nothing attached about ethics. It was 100% harassment.
The report,
I understand that's what the report says, but you asked what was filed, what the village received was a harassment complaint.
I'm not blaming you.
But I understand, but in the same token, you're taking the approach that reflects poorly upon our village, as if our village acted improperly. And that's not true. What the village received was a harassment complaint, period. Nothing else.
Yeah, but the village, under the leadership of the mayor, did act improperly.
I disagree. I was being advised
You
by our
charged
legal
me
counsel.
under an act that doesn't even
I
apply.
didn't charge you with anything, Mr. Kostler. I simply was going by what our attorney said to do. We had a Did you want me to sit on this and not do anything with this? I was handed a harassment
That's a good
complaint.
point, and I appreciate you saying that.
May I
When
please
was-
finish?
When was the time that I got the phone call that said, hey, there's a problem here between you two?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
How many times did I send you emails asking to meet? And the most recent email that you sent to me, or text rather, was that under the advice of your attorney, you were to have no meeting with me.
That was in 2017, and you're absolutely correct. And I can read
And when
off,
did that change?
I can read off, hold on.
You know,
I'm
we're
sorry.
kind of getting off the beaten
We're getting
path
off,
here.
yeah, we're getting off it.
Yeah, but there's been a lot of allegations made here. The fact that I don't want to meet with you is very pertinent to this whole discussion. I have no obligation to meet with you. There was a text message I sent to you in 2016 that said I want everything in writing because I didn't trust having a conversation with you. There was one conversation we had in 3.5 years, and I got charged with harassment. That's the fact. On September, no, let me ask you this, Ellen. What's the period of time where you say I was harassing you?
I just said it was a pattern, Jim, that it's very small. I felt there was a lot of past. We sit in a board. Our names are called, roll call is called, and for a good over a year, people can listen to the meetings if they want. You would always say, Trustee McElpin or Trustee McElpine, or you wouldn't say my name right. It's a passive aggressive move. It's not a big deal. People say my name wrong all the time. When you're in a board environment and you hear the name over and over and over again, it gets to be one of those things that you say, hey, is this person doing this on purpose or not? And then it just continued to escalate, Jim. It started to get more and more. And Jim, I have tried to work with you. And you're right, you're not obligated. Nobody's obligated to meet with anyone. But shame on anyone that's not an elected official, that's not willing to meet with their fellow elected officials. Shame on us. We should always be willing to meet with people. We should always be willing to meet with each other to talk. Not returning calls, not returning texts, not responding to emails. Shame on anyone that doesn't do that. So you're right, you're not obligated. However, I feel it's wrong.
Yeah, and the point is, we don't have to meet in person. The point is, we can have a discussion in written form, and there's a certain reason she doesn't want to have a discussion in written form. Okay? So I will say this. September 14th, 2017, is that within the time frame that you allege that?
Escalating pattern started probably around then.
well,
I didn't bring all my notes, to be perfectly honest.
I mean, I am sort of, it wasn't supposed to be this way, but it seems like I'm sort of on trial here. So I
Jim,
will
that's your
say,
choice for your actions. Be responsible for your actions.
I am, and you should be too. And what you said
Absolutely.
to me on September 14th, 2017, I have nothing adverse to say about you. And in fact, believe that you and I are in agreement for the most part. with
Absolutely.
So what's the problem, Ellen?
I don't know. You tell me, Jim. What is the problem? I agree wholeheartedly. What is the problem?
I proposed to Jacob Reif earlier today. I said, if she just admits that I didn't harass her, we'll be done with it.
And you know what?
You know what?
I will respond. I will respond to her daughter's work. That's pretty egregious what happened there. I was a customer of that bank for 23 years. I didn't even know her daughter worked there. to start a political action committee account for my mayoral run. I knew it was her daughter.
Okay? So I asked Amy if she was the daughter of Ellen.
And she said yes. And you know what I said? I said, man, that's it. And she says, oh, my mom likes you fine. And I went, well, whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I said, well, we're done. And as far as me asking for somebody else to help me, I had to get into my safe deposit box. So I asked for somebody else because she didn't have access to the safe deposit box. So I needed somebody to let me in the safe deposit box, which she called somebody else to do that for me. That's it. And this is documented. I have now had discussions with BMO Harris. They will attest that this didn't happen, that this harassing incident didn't happen. Okay? It's beyond comprehension, the claims that have been made against me that are unsubstantiated.
All right, let's continue moving forward with this resolution. There is the charge of an intentional leak. Did you want to comment on that? Mr. Kassler? Can I ask, who authored this resolution?
That's not pertinent.
Okay.
We have more than 3 trustees that wanted a special board meeting. That's what's pertinent. And we're discussing the resolution, and if we want other things that were said, that's fine.
All right, let's talk about the intentional leak then.
Sure.
Can you verify and improve?
All I know is that this board were the only ones that had this report, along with Administrator Reif and Attorney Euler, and somebody placed this in an envelope on a reporter's desk, and I know it wasn't me.
If you're going to, I will call you in just a minute. Let him finish his statement, please.
I'll also go on record and say it was not me that sent it to the Northwest Herald.
Trustee Coster, did you want to finish your statement?
Well, obviously somebody leaked it, and when there was only, 9 people that had access to it. So maybe we should see who, let's pull the board here. Who is yes or no?
No,
Of course I didn't.
No.
I did not. And it's offensive that we would get, Kim, you're talking about investigations, and you're talking to both sides. You made an accusation that you thought that I perhaps was the leak. Not once did anybody on this board ask me if I did this.
Did I say that to you?
You implied that in the email.
I did.
You did.
How did I imply it? I'll tell you what. Because during the whole donation,
my text messages to the reporter, but you only gave a half snippet of what the conversation entailed. You did not give full context.
and we spoke about this.
We did.
And you apologized for it to my face.
I did.
You did not choose to call the Northwest Herald and clarify it with them. So instead, I was arguing with people over what the actual real truth of the matter was.
So we
So,
have to call this back to order because that's not what we're talking about
okay,
today.
but
It's
I'm
about
just,
the other.
but I'm showing there's a history there. That's my point.
Mrs. Cavelli, let me assure you, I did not leak this. I didn't even know where the document was. I had to find it. When all this started happening, I had to find out where it was. And it's insulting that nobody on this board, it's so easy for people to point a finger at who's doing something, but no one will pick up the phone and say, hey, did you send this out?
I
Did you
did-
leak this?
I did ask
Well,
you.
we had a conversation. Yeah, you called me and we talked about it. I appreciate that. But when you get these nasty emails that refers to people being evil and that kind of stuff without even a conversation, that's just wrong. I think you and I have a much better
I
relationship
thought we
than
did.
that. And
I thought
think-
we did. And I did clarify that at the last meeting, this board did not have a consensus on something, but we talked about it in a civil manner.
Right.
We agreed to move on, and it was great. And then all of a sudden, this gets leaked. for no reason, just out of the blue. It did not make any sense. And it's only, again, it was only one portion of the report. So again, it was a half-truth. Not all the information is out there. And again, it's a one-sided report that I have explained my concerns with in this report, this document that we paid taxpayer money for that has so many holes in it, including interviews of trustees that basically this person that this investigator said that she just doesn't believe that person. Even though Trustee Kraus said, I didn't hear anything, all of a sudden it was, well, I don't believe him. Well, I mean, how do you conclude your investigation just saying, I don't believe somebody because they tell you something you don't want to hear? The fact that it says in here that she did not believe Trustee Kostler wanted to actually meet with her when he's got documentation to show he tried. I mean, there's so many holes in this report, and it's just so unfair that we're ruining somebody's name. And that's the part that I have a hard time with and that I struggle with this. I think that it's wrong.
All right, let's talk about Section C, where the board repudiates the use of taxpayer funds for politically motivated investigations. That's also another opinion and an accusation. Know how or who did this?
It's just, so if you agree, you agree. If you don't, you don't.
See, that's the part of the whole resolution. There's a lot of inaccuracies and opinions in this resolution, and a resolution should be factual. It should represent what the consensus of the board is. There is way too many inconsistencies and factually misleading statements in here.
But the investigation report doesn't have to be factual, and it can be based all on an opinion. Is that what
It
you're
was,
saying?
no, I
that's
will
exact-
disagree with Trustee Cavelli when she's a police officer. She knows that when they do investigations, you at times will make a determination after you interview somebody. I've talked to another police officer who said that when they do investigations, they can come up with an opinion on something during an investigation. So I think that the politically motivated statement is, it's unfounded. It's absolutely on this board that is even thinking about this.
Well, just to clarify, I don't know who told you should put opinion in a police report, but it should be fact-based, not opinion.
Well, fact-based, that, well, I might have, whatever, they had said that police officers come up with facts on just interviewing one person.
Facts.
The board agrees with the findings of Attorney John Murphy dated April 5th, 2018, which it states, in my opinion, the conduct of Trustee Kostler as described in Ms. Callaway's report does not constitute a violation of the village harassment policy or governing law. That is factual. It is in with his report. Is there any comment on that?
Can I go back to the very first one where you just were saying that on the politically motivated? I would think that there should be a consensus here that everybody agrees with that. I don't think there's anybody that's going to say that there should ever be anything that's politically motivated. But again, I do have to agree that making that statement infers that this was politically motivated, and therefore there's no merit to that being in there when there's just no merit to it being in there.
But when we were in executive session, I did ask you, and I spoke to you about this on the phone as well, and I asked if, when an election comes up, if you were planning on letting this out, leaking this out, and you said something, I don't remember exactly word for word, but to the effect of, I'm not going to say that I'm not going to.
No, what you did is you wanted to know would I ever release this report? And I said, I am not going to say that I
With an
would never
election
release the
coming up.
report. At some point, election came up, but the point was, and when I say this, if I were going to do this, why would I do this now? Why wouldn't I wait until February or March when it's fresh in people's mind? I don't know about you, but my guess is that a lot of people are not going to remember this come March, April when it's election time. So if I were doing something like that, why would I do it now?
I'm just saying what you said in executive
And why did
session.
I say, do you remember what I told you about that then? Again, let's give the full truth.
Go
What
ahead.
I said to you is that I have no guarantee if this behavior is going to continue. And this behavior continues, then it does need to be gotten out there. That information need to get out there. That's what I said about it. I can't say no to something like that if someone's going to continue to act in a pattern like that.
Okay, I need to make a statement here because you keep saying the behavior, but you have no proof of anything.
Sure I do.
So, well, what's the proof? What behavior?
Well, let me ask you this. Did you get an email from me on December 21st, like everybody else?
Yes.
And did it go over exactly what happened in the board meeting?
It was your interpretation of what
Correct.
happened.
Did you ever respond to that?
No.
If someone said to me, boy, here's what happened, and it was really things that were not positive about me, it made comments like, you said someone disgusted them, you couldn't even sit next to them, that they were immoral and corrupt, and again, I might get the quotes off wrong here, I'd have to look verbatim here, I'm a felon, you're a felon, out about me, I would immediately reach out and correct the record. I wouldn't want that standing out there. So the fact that you did nothing speaks volumes. And I did show, there was proof in there about statements that you had posted on Facebook about felonious behavior and about me, and about, I feel it's right to call out trustees that act as felons. And in fact,
didn't say that.
in the paper, you
say
put
that.
some comment. You put some comment in the paper about it also, that I should have been charged with a felony.
I didn't say that either.
Could you please let one person talk at a time, please?
I'm trying. In addition to that, I do have you did call the police on my husband and make an accusation that he threatened a public official. I have proof of that stuff. I had proof in there of the email you sent out to the whole board claiming that my son was making libelous statements about you. So don't say that some of the stuff did not have proof there. It did have proof behind it. You may not like it, but it happened. And you're responsible for your actions. And everyone on this board got the same email. So I certainly didn't make it up, Jim.
I don't understand how one email
Are you going to say now? Are you going to say now, almost a year later, that this didn't occur? Is that what you're claiming now?
No, what I'm
Because I
saying,
thought what you said is that you were not tethered by any rules or regulations. You could basically do whatever you wanted.
no, you're making a bunch of accusations tonight, and you're just throwing everything out there trying to make something stick.
I am not
It's
throwing it.
ridiculous.
This
And
has
maybe
been
we
out
should
there the
bring
whole
Pat into
time.
this discussion now, because there was a legal police report made, right, Pat? I mean, I'm getting charged with making a legal police report. Was it illegal, or was it?
I don't know what a legal police report was made.
Right.
And it was based on conduct by both parties, and there was no criminal charges that resulted.
Wait a minute, both parties? What do you mean conduct by both parties?
Well, we interviewed both parties.
Okay. So did you look at the videotape of the incident?
We did review the videotape, but
You did?
there's no videotape, there's video.
Video. I'm sorry, I'm that old.
No, me too.
Video.
So I'm that old too. But I do believe that, I don't think there was anything I can't remember now, but I believe that there wasn't anything that was substantial in regards to the interaction, that it showed that people were in the lobby.
Well, you know, I have it from Officer Winkleman that they didn't even look at the tape, and I have that in writing. So there was no investigation, I guess is my point. They didn't investigate.
Well, I disagree that they did, but that there was no criminal complaint that was
But how do you
initiated.
determine there's no criminal complaint if you didn't even look at the tape
That was the officers that conducted the investigation.
and they didn't look at the tape?
I don't know if they did or not, I can't answer.
No, I have it, and anybody here wants the copy of the email, they admit to not looking at it.
Okay.
And the investigation was closed. So I don't appreciate the accusation, not that, I appreciate that, but the accusation that I made some kind of false police report is ridiculous.
My exit from this building was impeded.
By her husband, I was threatened, and I made the police report. And you can watch the video.
I have it. There's absolutely nothing, no lunging, no touching, no nothing. And Jim walked out very calmly out. Again, if you were concerned, forget everything, let's use common sense. If I was threatened and I'm right upstairs and my police chief is right here, you would walk right down here. Or you would walk right next door. You wouldn't go home and later think about it, let me
Let's not
methodically think what I
editorialize
can
this.
do.
Let's move on.
Okay.
You said that's exactly what you did. You went home and you thought about it.
All right, let's,
Filing the charges. You
Could you please hold this is not a public comment right now, please. I will open it up to Trustee Cosser. Instead of going back and forth, just make your statements and move on.
I
Or
agree.
cross-examination.
Yep.
Moving on to item number 2 is the mayor and village administrator acted without authority to enter into a contract with and retain Callaway lawyer at a cost of more than $5,000 to conduct investigation of trustee Cosler. This act violated village procurement code sections 3. And I think we've already answered that back there, trustee, or on that.
Picture that was made here was based on Administrator Reif's consultation with 2 law firms that have experience in this area in labor and employment law. Their recommendation was to proceed with an investigation. On that basis, he made the decision to enter into a contract with Attorney Lisa Callaway to conduct this investigation. And I've mentioned before, I was asked for my opinion about what your code provides regarding the village administrator's authority to spend up to a threshold of $20,000. And I've given you my thought on what the code means. So.
However, from what I understand, what Jim had told us is that he needs board approval to enter into a contract, and it had nothing to do, it's not supposed to be able to sign for anything legally. Is that correct?
That's not how I read the code. The code, I know this starts to get a little more subtle, but to spend in most instances, if we look at the 4 categories that are set out for the village administrator to spend money up to $20,000, of necessity, most if not all of those would involve an agreement with some entity, with a contractor, with a consultant, whoever it is that
A
is.
legal contract?
A legal contract that they are bound by if we commit, if we, the village, or through the village administrator or this board, commits to spend $1,000, $5,000, $50,000. We are entering into a contract with the other side to meet some obligations in order to be paid that amount of money. So that's the understanding, whether it's in writing, and in this case it was in writing, or it is not in writing, you can reach a verbal agreement, a verbal contract for us to spend X dollars for some kind of service, whatever that might be. So.
Okay, and just for clarification, under section 3.04.50 for fiscal expenditures, you know, those 4 points you mentioned, the emergency expenditures, non-emergency expenditures, price quotations or bids, and then absence of department head or village administrator, those 4 sections. Prior to that, under section A, which that falls under, it says prior approval by board of trustees is not required. Expenditures for repairs, maintenance, supplies, projects, and equipment may be made without prior approval of the president and village board of trustees. And then those 4 stipulations fall under repairs, maintenance, supplies, projects, and equipment, none of which was this. So I've spoken to another attorney about this, and they feel that that expenditure does not fall under fiscal expenditures, which I realize attorneys have different opinions on stuff, so I respect that. But just to clarify, those 4 sections fall under that limited parameter that this did not come under.
Understood.
Moving on to number 3. This board agrees with the recommendations given by village attorneys at the time.
Disagrees.
Pardon me?
This board disagrees. Did you say agrees?
Disagrees.
Okay.
With the recommendation given by village attorneys at the time, Ansel Glink, to initiate an investigation without proper legal basis. The firm knew or should have known that taxpayer funds were being spent on an investigation of trustee Cosler. They knew or should have known that the Village Employee Handbook of the State Officials and Employee Ethics Act does not apply to political disagreements among village officials. And they knew or should have known that there was an illegal investigation financed by an unauthorized use of taxpayer funds. As the village attorneys, the law firm's recommendation of such an investigation equated to a breach of their duty to the full board of trustees.
I think that says it all right there.
I don't agree to that. I mean, again, we have village attorneys for a reason. Nobody sitting up here other than Scott is an attorney. And that's why we have attorneys, just like we go by what a village attorney is supposed to be representing our village to make sure that we're protected. Jake, in situations similar to this, I think that you shared in executive session, and I assume because everyone's talking about some of those things that I can say this at this point, or I wouldn't be saying it. So you shared that you've had other instances where these were the same procedures that you followed. So you followed a set of precedents within our village when something like this came up, harassment, anything like that. You followed the same procedures that you would have in the past. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've had similar situations.
And this is how you handle them?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Certainly not with elected officials.
Right.
But similar situations.
And the advice you got from the attorney at the time was to handle it in the same manner that it had previously been handled?
Correct.
And in those cases, when there was a problem with an employee, did you release the report to the whole board?
I don't believe so.
Thank you.
We didn't release the report to the whole board. People asked for it. It was not, it was,
We did not release.
we did not release the report.
Okay, that's semantics, but okay. The fact stands that Ansel Glink was the law firm that I helped get removed from this village because they gave us bad legal advice, period.
They were still counsel.
She came up, and they obviously had an axe to grind with me. Would recommend that's the bottom line.
That's your opinion, Trustee Kostler. Our current law firm agreed with the assessment, and we moved forward with continuing with the investigation. Number 4, Trustee Kostler's numerous requests of the mayor to be seated at the village board table in the seat other than the one next to Trustee McAlpine have been ignored by the mayor, and the request should be honored at the next village board meeting of December 4th, 2018. This is an interesting part. We went back and forth, though, in 2017 with some trustees that are on this board right now with making demands on where they want to sit and where they think they should have sat. They told me I have no authority to put people in a seat. Previous mayors, the former 2 boards that I was in charge of, I put together a seating assignment, and after every election, I changed up the seating assignments to mix things up and get people more familiar with other people. I just did that as a standard operating procedure, just try to create a continuity within the board. I was told at that time that I don't have the authority. And so then I said, well, you do what you're going to do. And I set the seating chart. In that next board meeting, trustees Weinhammer and Covelli switched seats. Did I jump up and down and complain about it? This isn't 3rd grade. If you don't want to sit next to somebody, go sit somewhere else. Trade with somebody else. I don't care. Sit in the audience. I don't care. It doesn't make a difference. If you're not comfortable sitting next to somebody, then make an effort to it. Your assertion that you thought Trustee McAlpine was not comfortable, that night I asked her, would you like me to change your seat? And she said no.
No, I'm an adult.
And
I'm an adult.
I
We
think
should
that
be
it's-
acting like adults,
Please,
guys.
may I finish?
Yes, sorry.
This is not, so, if you want me to make seat assignments, I'll be happy to. But I think that we should all be adult enough to be able to sit next to each other for a period of time and all get along. I don't, if you want to move somewhere else, Jim, fine. Find somebody else that wants to switch with you and move. I don't care. If you're comfortable doing that, that's fine. I want my trustees to feel comfortable. I want them to be able to work well with everybody else, get a different perspective. There's nothing wrong with that. So I find this is troublesome to me. This is we're back in 3rd grade here where you're complaining about sitting next to somebody. Trustee Kostler, I think that you're smarter than that. I think that you offer some great value to some of these discussions that we have. And if you don't feel comfortable sitting in the seat, then I would suggest that you move. You don't need my permission. That was made known to me in 2017.
Even though I have an email from you that says you have the right to dictate where we sit?
At that particular time, I was going off of past practices with I talked to the mayors, and that's what it was.
So, okay. So what is it? You know, be it you know, an adult or I'm a dictator.
Well, I was called a dictator because I came up with a seating chart.
I didn't call you a dictator.
I was called a dictator on this board because I came up with a seating chart.
Who
It
called
was
him a
innocent. Jim, it was innocent.
Listen, the bottom line is I was concerned because there were allegations, and I reached out to move the seat to make Ellen feel more comfortable. That's the bottom line. The email is in the documentation. It's all there. All I wanted to do was make Ellen feel comfortable, but he said no, and she said no.
I didn't say no.
Well, it's right there. It's in the exhibits. So judge for yourself.
The statement is inaccurate.
So did you respond to his email when he asked to change seats?
I don't remember what that was. I don't. I really don't.
Did
I've
he
tried
respond?
looking for a lot of them before.
Did he respond to your email, Jim? About changing seats?
Yeah, he responded that he thought that statutes gave him the authority.
I
Was this
have
after
something
the
to
election when Jennifer was elected?
Yes.
And Chris?
Yes.
And myself?
Yes.
Because that was something that I don't know if you asked for recommendations, but I sent you a recommendation about what I thought would work and a simple little olive branch to the new trustees to try to just work and, you know, just try to work with the board. But then you snapped back at me and sent me back some snarky email, you know, stating that I forget what it was, but it was just, you know, Mark, just a simple olive branch, something simple as a seating chart. And you
I
can't even
understand.
try to, you know, work
I
with the
did.
trustees.
I did. I asked after the election happened, you were the first person I went to and said, where would you like to sit? You're the senior trustee. That's always given the privilege of a senior trustee where you'd like to seat. Where would you like to sit? And I said, I came up with this thing. I don't even remember where everybody was. I don't have that right now. And you were going to take Trustee McAlpine's seat. And then you changed your mind, said that you wanted to stay where you are. And I said, that's fine. Wherever you want to go, then I will plug in everybody else wherever. I wanted to make sure that there was new trustees with seasoned trustees so that there was ever any questions or any dialogue that they can talk about it during a meeting so that they didn't feel isolated. And that was one of Trustee Weinhammer's concern when she first emailed me about the seating assignments. And I said, I will guarantee you will sit next to somebody that's seasoned. And that somebody that was there, and I assured that, and I think I originally put you two were swapped, I think. You and Kim, I can't remember exactly where it was, but my gosh, it was 2 years ago. I don't remember. I had for lunch. But, you know, I try to work with everybody, you know, but then everybody comes in and they move themselves around. Really, I don't care. Wherever you're comfortable sitting, you know, I want people to feel comfortable so that they're motivated to move things forward and advance the village to the next level. So I disagree with this, that your seating chart was ignored. It was not ignored.
Once again, if anybody wants to look at them, I have all the emails. That's all I have to say. I have proof. They don't. They just keep making accusations. I have the written documentation. If anybody, come on over to my house. I'll give it all to you. In fact, you can just look through my whole village email account. I don't even care. There's nothing I've done wrong. I'm totally transparent. Just have it.
I just think this discussion about seating is silly. I do. I think it makes us, it really makes us look so unprofessional and like little junior high squabbling over where we're going to sit. We should all be adults. We should sit, as I've said, and I'll say again, I will sit wherever someone wants me to sit. You know, as the head of our board, I don't see that if the mayor says, here's where he wants me to sit, I'll sit wherever. I don't have a problem sitting next to Jim. I don't have a problem sitting next to anybody here. I will work with anyone at all times because you know what? It's not about me. We're here to serve the residents, guys. We're not here to serve ourselves. Check your egos at the door. It's not about us.
So
Next.
all I will say is that normally if somebody was being harassed, they wouldn't want to sit next to somebody that would be doing that behavior.
I understand
And
that.
you defended your seating position, and so did the mayor. There's written evidence, and It's a fact. So I tried to make it better, and you guys resisted it. That's a fact. Fact.
Trustee McAlpine had her reasons for not moving,
Right.
and I
Okay.
honored her request.
My reasons that I said is that that's what you asked for, Jim, and I felt like that would be just giving a bully what they wanted. That's what I said about it. So I just said, I'm a big girl, I can sit where I need to, and however you choose to treat me or anyone else, I will sit next to anyone, and I'm not going to be bullied into moving my seat. If you want to move your seat, that would be your decision.
No, it wasn't my decision. It was the mayor's decision.
I'm, right here, it says, trustee Cosner's numerous results for the mayor to be seated in a seat other than next to trustee McAlpine have been
Yeah,
ignored.
it was the
So
mayor's
that means this says trustee Cosner's numerous requests of the mayor to be seated at the village board table in a seat other than one next to trustee McAlpine has been ignored.
It has.
So again, if you want to move your seat, go for
I
it.
couldn't. He told me I couldn't.
Well, he's told you now.
Okay, stop. You guys are laughing
this
at
is, you know,
something
This is
that-
silly. This is
Jennifer,
he
Jennifer,
actually stated.
Jennifer.
You know what, Mark?
Please.
You actually stated to all of us that this is where we are to sit. This is, so you guys are not laughing, but this happened at the beginning of the election. He was very controlling and telling everybody where they were going to sit. And it's fine, but if Jim's asking for a new seat, I don't see why he can't have a new seat. So you guys all think it's so funny? It's not really funny.
All right, please.
Okay. Move on.
We'll open up to public comments shortly as soon as this discussion is happened. So the bottom line, trustee Costner, feel free to sit wherever you'd like. Just make sure that the person seating that you're taking is aware of that, if that's the direction you choose to go.
So you agree with number 4?
No, I don't agree with number 4. I did not ignore your request.
You did.
I
But-
did not. I do not agree
Okay.
with that statement.
I have written proof.
Now,
Okay.
moving on to numbers, we're done with seating charts here. Number 5, a copy of the resolution shall be placed on the village's website, be made available at no charge to the public, and upon the production of an investigation report to anyone, a copy of this resolution shall be attached hereto. I have absolutely no problem with that. Not one whatsoever. Anybody else?
I don't think the resolution in its standard should be passed, so. But if we pass a resolution, then by all
If we
means.
pass a resolution and it's available for public, be on the
Absolutely.
website, absolutely no problem whatsoever. Number 6, the entire audio recording of the village board executive session on June 5th, 2018 pertaining to the discussion of the investigation report shall be released and available to those who request it. Again, if it's the village board's decision that they want to have this released, I have no problem with that. Number 7, does anybody else have a problem with the audio release?
No.
Number 7, at the next village board meeting, the administrator's actions will be reviewed and his performance will be evaluated. I have serious concerns about this. We just did a lengthy evaluation that Jake and I are going to be going through, finalizing. We were going to be, after we finish all the reviews, we are going to set up meetings with Administrator Reif and myself and each individual trustee to go over it. We feel that is going to be the most productive because there are some interesting comments that are in there, and we feel moving forward in the best interest of the village, that we would have a 3-person meeting to review all the context of each individual's submitted evaluation. So I don't think this has anything to do with this resolution whatsoever.
Okay. You're against 7.
I am against 7.
Okay. Jacob, we talked about this today. Do you trust me in my intentions with that, number 7, that you'll get a fair shake?
I'd say that I'm happy to review my performance with the village board anytime you want to review it.
And your review has been delayed for some
Yeah,
time.
we haven't completed it. Other village staff reviews were completed early in 2018, and mine hasn't been completed yet to date.
So I would like to complete it, and I am a fair guy. My review of Jacob went directly to him and the mayor. Everything I said about Jacob went right to him. I don't hold back. I do not hide behind anything. And I think Jake he trusts me enough to know that this is not, we're not looking at evil intentions with this statement. We just want to do what is in your contract, which says that you're going to be evaluated every year, and we're, what, 6 months behind? Right?
Plus or minus, yeah.
Okay, that's the intent.
Yeah, but there's extenuating circumstances to why this has been delayed, and I have been in contact with Administrator Reif about these things, and we've been in agreement. Have we not?
Yeah, I'm ready to finalize the review.
And you trust that you'll get a fair shake, right? So I think we can leave it in there, right?
I don't see what it has to do with this. Why does it have to be included with this? Why don't we just say at our next board meeting, we're going to do that in a resolution form?
Because it's been so delayed.
Okay, but what does it, we are holding a special meeting about this report.
Right.
What does Jake's performance have to do with this special meeting about the report? Why can't we say put on the next village agenda? It's pretty simple.
Jake, I didn't ask that question, just so you know.
Okay. Because this came up earlier today.
So I didn't ask what Ellen just asked, why couldn't we have done this other time?
Well, like I said, I mean, if the board wants to review my performance at every meeting, I mean, I'll be there and I'll be ready to talk. So it's a decision of
It's
the
a
village
simple
board.
request. I think it's in his contract and it's delayed. It should be done, period.
Okay, we've made some, I've made some notes about these things. I'd like to open this up to the public for comments, if anybody else has any other comments regarding. I will entertain comments from the public at this time. Mrs. Knepper, could you come up to the phone and just state your name and address for the phone, for the record, please?
Liz Knepper, 314 Crest, Cary, Illinois. I just have a question. In reading the Northwest regarding this, it stated that you were going to reach out to the reporter and ask how he got the information.
Yes.
Did you?
Yes.
Did he tell you?
No.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Is there anybody else that would like to ask a question, sir? Please state your name and address.
Yeah, my name's Jared Guy, 557 Krenz. What I'd like to know is everybody on the board, or is everybody given the village harassment policy? Because if you're not aware of a policy, how are you aware that you're violating it? I mean, that's one of the provisions of Just Cause, is that if it's a notice, everybody should be on notice. So is everybody on the board given that, or has anybody ever heard of it before?
That's a good question. And through this investigation, we found out that elected officials are not subject to our employee handbook.
Okay, so then the harassment policy is null
Right,
and void for it, right?
we could convene our own policy, which is something that I'd like to handle in the first part of this next year, come up with a code of ethics for the village
But then you
board.
would have the policy issued to everybody. so
We would
they'd
do
be
that, and
aware of it.
it would be a joint board decision on these things that would be in all of our best interests. But through this investigation, we found out that elected officials are exempt from our employee handbook.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else would like to address the village board? Yes. Name and address, please.
Cassie Pinter, 325 Bryan Drive. I'm sitting here listening to all this, and I realize that it needs to be discussed, but I kept saying, it kept going through my head, smoke and mirrors, smoke and mirrors, smoke and mirrors. So much minutia about procedures and everything else that we've kind of stopped talking about the behavior that started it all. And why we're even here because of somebody's behavior. I read the whole report from the Northwest Herald. I saw what it said. You know, I was in that meeting on December when the exchange occurred over here. I didn't hear what was said. I was in the back of the room because it was between, people were leaving. What I do remember and vividly was the look on Trustee Kessler's face and the look on Trustee McAlpine's face and the look on Trustee Krause's face sitting right there listening to it, and the body language and the demeanor and the pure anger on trustee Kessler's face and the look on trustee McAlpine's face of just, she was in shock over what was being said. I said to a group of people, something is happening up there and it's not good. I couldn't tell what was being said. You know, the bottom line is nobody should have to walk in and sit in a position like this and be talked to like that. Nobody should have those things said to them or said about them. It's horrible and it's unacceptable. I've sat here for years listening to trustee Kessler mispronounce trustee McAlpine's last name. That's just disrespect. That's, you know what, you learn the way to say the people's names that you're working with, period. So do what you need to do, vote how you need to vote. We pretty much all know how the vote's going to go. Repudiate the report, but go ahead and repudiate the report. It doesn't repudiate the behavior.
Nancy Caveney, 940 Pearson Road. I'm really here to make a statement. You guys are all elected officials, all elected by us. You're here to represent us. I have 5 children. I moved to the town of Cary because I love the small hometown. I love the school district. I love the community. I worked in this community at Harris Bank for 26 years. And I've always been proud to be a part of this community. This behavior is ridiculous, crazy. All of you that have children, what do you teach your children when they go to school? When you're talking to somebody, you look them in the face, right? You acknowledge them, you respect them, you use their name. Few questions. I just want to know, because I'm reading the reports, simple question for you. Did you say the things that are reported? Did you say you can't stand her and her chamber friends? The comments that are out there, I just want a simple yes or no. Just own it. Did you say it or didn't you? No, is that, you know I'm not going to answer?
Well, he doesn't have to answer.
I can answer. I mean,
Yeah, did you? I just want to know.
So where were you 9 months ago?
I was in my house in Cary. I just want to know if you said these things.
Does my ability to rebut what you said, he said, mean anything?
I'm giving you that opportunity. I don't want it to be a he said, she said. I'm just asking you a simple question. Did you say those things?
My account is very different than Ellen's account.
Okay. All right.
And that's it. I mean,
All right.
It's very different. In fact, I would say to you, how was I harassing Ellen when I wouldn't even engage in a private conversation with her? I'm talking.
Okay, I'll just
She
answer your
engaged
question.
me with the conversation in which I said, I'm done. I don't want this conversation. And she didn't stop. And that is on the video.
Okay.
Okay? So this whole implication that Jim said whatever, okay, we better backtrack here a little bit. There can be a he said, there can be a she said. I didn't get to have my he said.
Well, you did,
Okay.
though.
No, I
You
didn't.
had the opportunity.
I
I'm
did
just
not have
asking
the
simple
opportunity.
questions, just a yes or no.
But the
I'll
fact
just
of the
move
matter
on
is-
from it because I'm not
well,
going to get the answer.
It's not a yes or no,
Let's
because
stop
my
the-
account.
I'll move on.
My
I'll move
account
on.
will differ from her account.
So I'm
what's
just going to move on.
What's the
So I don't know what you said or didn't say. I
Right.
know what she said, you said. I have
So
no idea what you
What I'm
said.
getting at here is, I did not start the conversation. I did not want to have the conversation, yet I'm being charged with, that was the only conversation we had, and now I am harassing her. Think about that.
I have thought about it. So I am just going to go on record here. I wasn't there. We don't know what was said. Certainly Cassie, saw some type of engagement between you guys. She saw the body language. Only you two know what was said. You own what you say, and that's that. What I can make my judgments on is I don't know if you have any type of disability, but there is a roll call here every day, every meeting. So it's just passive aggressive to sit there and call somebody by their incorrect last name. It's very immature and very passive aggressive. And, you know, no response from you is the only response I need. I'm just going to say to all of you is that you're here to represent the people. This is so ridiculous that this much time is spent on this silly type of behavior, and that we're just going to push it behind and pretend like it didn't happen, or we're going to say it's okay as long as the public doesn't know. That's crazy. You're accountable to all of us. You say, oh, well, we're not an employee of the village, so we don't have to adhere to those rules. Well, who does employ you? Who does you? Certainly the public should. We're the ones that elected you. And I just have to say, shame on you for going on in a public forum in social media and criticizing somebody that they're supposed to be a Christian and Catholic no less. Into this.
That wasn't on social media. That was an email exchange.
I have it. It was on Facebook.
It was not on Facebook.
It was. I will bring it to the next. I'll bring it to the next meeting.
What you're talking about, what I believe that you're talking about, and maybe I'm incorrect, is my email exchange with the mayor. And I did ask him if he did give that to the Northwest Herald, which he said no. So that means somebody else on the board gave that to the Northwest Herald. I'm Catholic too, so I.
Yeah, so am I.
Great.
And I don't pass judgment on people. And I don't go to a public forum on
You
Facebook.
just told me shame
Well,
on
you're
you.
right, I did. I am passing judgment on you.
So
but I will bring it. I will bring it to the next meeting because
Good.
it is
You can
on
judge me
Facebook
even
and
more.
your response. And, you know, I just think that's ridiculous. That's not what you're here for. That you're an elected public official, that they're not a good Catholic or a good Christian.
You just.
Shame on you for doing that.
Shame on you.
Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's all I have to say. Just remember who you're here for. You wanted to be the village mayor and you can't even be civil to somebody and respectful to somebody. You can't sit in the seat, but like you want to come up and represent this whole village and you're not mature enough to be respectful to anybody. That's just ridiculous.
Just for full disclosure, are you Ellen's sister?
Does it matter?
I think so.
Doesn't matter what's been said and done.
Okay, but you are Ellen's sister.
Oh, wow.
I'm Martha Ritter, 239 North School Street. I'm just wondering, every meeting, I don't see any of these people. I don't know where they're coming from. There's 4 or 5 people. I see him, her, me, and my son. That's about it. Maybe one other person. So when they come up here and say, oh, I know about all this and what they're all saying, how would they even know? They never even come to a board meeting.
Because it's on YouTube.
It doesn't matter. When they shut off that, whatever that thing is, are you still listening?
Watch it over and over again.
Yeah, when they shut it off and there's people talking afterwards. Do you know what they say?
Martha,
Hello?
Martha, please address us.
So when they say, oh, we've been here and we know everything, unless they're invisible, I don't see any of these people here. We come every time, every time.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I wonder who's acting like children.
I wonder. Al Ross, 461 White Oaks Drive. So I have one question for Mrs. Cavelli. You said you didn't doubt that Mr. Kalnick released the report to the or the Northwest Herald. But at the same time, you repudiated that when the lawyer said that Mr. Krause didn't remember. You said you believed him, but you don't believe Mr. Kalnick. As a police officer in your real job, how do you reconcile those two issues?
Well, I'm speaking as an individual. I'm not
Okay.
speaking as a police officer.
I understand, but your experiences as a police
And I'm
officer.
also speaking on just process of elimination of who could release this report. And, you know, Trustee Weinhammer told me that the day that this got released, that Trustee McAlpine and her spoke on the phone, and Trustee McAlpine was very upset. She said she felt bad for her. She was crying. She was worried about this getting out and how it would embarrass her, potentially embarrass her family. So with that information, I know Trustee Kostler didn't release it, Trustee Kraus, Trustee Betts, Weinhammer. So it's a process of elimination.
But I guess my point is that you're saying your judgment was that you believe Mr. Koenig might have done it, but you don't trust the lawyer's judgment that when she said she didn't believe Mr. Kraus.
She conducted a formal investigation.
Right.
She wrote a formal report, an
Right.
investigation. I didn't do that. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Well, that's really what her opinion was.
But it's in a formal report that basically says, in her opinion, that this harassment occurred. I did not conduct a formal report. I did not interview people. I did not do all that. I'm just giving an opinion. That's
But
a
your
lot different
opinion
than
matters or something.
that's a lot different than what's in an actual report that taxpayer dollars paid for, $5,000. It should have never occurred. There's a huge difference between the two, Mr. Ross.
That's your opinion.
You're right.
Mr. Kostler, I have a quick question about names. Why would you not call Mrs. McAlpine the correct name?
It's a dialect. So what, I don't even know what you're asking. So if somebody pronounces McDonald's, you have an issue with that?
I listened to the YouTube videos, so it was all over the board.
This is getting really childish, that you all are saying that I am purposely calling Ellen the wrong name. I mean, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
It's ridiculous that you can't.
Here's how ridiculous it is.
You would think it would be ridiculous not to correct it.
When I talk to people and they bring up her name, they can't even get it right. So you're holding me to a higher standard.
You're an elected official. You should be held to a higher standard.
What? Wait a minute. So I have to pronounce everybody's name perfectly every time, and then if they don't correct me for 2.5 years, and then their husband meets me up in the lobby, then I have to correct it right?
But
is that
again,
what you're
don't
saying?
they have-
No. Is that what you're saying?
No,
When
that's not
her
what I'm saying.
husband
But what I am
demands
saying
that
is that
I
you
say
should
it
listen
right.
to the roll call, and be able
Let's
to
bring
figure
it
out
down.
how to pronounce the name.
Mr. Ross, let's bring this down a little bit.
Can I just add one thing to that? I just want to say something about the name thing. My maiden name is spelled Streit, okay? Some people pronounce it Strite, some people pronounce it Street. I've been called Street my entire life. In my place of employment, I had a boss who constantly called me Officer Street, Officer Street, Officer Street. It's actually Strite. Strite is the correct pronunciation of my last name. Never once did I make an issue of it. So I'm just saying that there are people who just mispronounce names. But to say that someone's harassing you because of it, I guess I'm different and that I do not interpret it that way. So just my experience, my personal experience, I wanted to share that.
And most people call me Ingalls. It's Ingalls. Robin Ingalls, 635 Knollwood Drive. Mr. Kostler, I apologize. I do. I'm listening to all this. I've read a lot of reports. I read half the written paper, half the truth. Listen to everybody here today. I'm also quite ashamed that people are bringing up here in the audience some things that aren't even making sense and yelling and making some derogatory comments. But I apologize to you. As a woman in business, I have taken more crap than you can ever imagine, but I have a backbone. I go to them and I talk to them. I don't hire lawyers. I don't put it in the paper. I don't try to ruin someone's reputation at all. So on behalf of many residents here in Cary, let me tell you, if you were to run for mayor right now, you would easily get the vote. You have stood up. You have been completely honest. You have, I'm willing to give us all the information that you have, proof. And I'm wondering how many people have heard years and years of harassment toward Ms. McAlpine from Mr. Kostler. So I apologize. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to address the village board?
Linda Barrett, 500 New Haven Drive. I think I just want to make an observation that if we could make a regulation that's about better behavior and a cooperative environment, I'd like to see that put on your list. Because this, to me, is not my community. You guys are all better than this. I'd like to see everyone apologize, move seats, make whatever arrangements, but we should be done. We should be done. Everyone should apologize. We're coming in the holiday. Let's be done with this. I want to be done with this.
I agree.
I agree.
Is there anybody else would like to?
One thing, I think that it is extremely important that we do find out who the snitch is around here, that would let that out to the paper. That's all. We really should find out at least who can be trusted, and that way we'll know who can be trusted.
She just smudged my nice comment. Oh, I'm sorry. We need a smudge stick in here, you guys.
Christopher McAlpine, 545 Red Cypress Drive. I happen to live at the same residence as trustee McAlpine because, and just to let you know, I am her husband. So if there are any questions that come after Mr. Trustee Kraus, I am her husband. So
Thank you for clarifying that.
absolutely, absolutely. I think we've missed a lot of what's really the issue here. The issue is Trustee McAlpine has listened to the comments made by Trustee Kostler, seen the postings on Facebook, has heard this for a long time. It's been going on for quite a while. Yeah, he pronounces the name wrong, and yeah, I did say something to him up in the lobby. I said, hey, the name is McAlpine, get it right. And then he called the police on me. So I'm sorry. I know I'm an intimidating guy. I'm sorry if I scared you, okay? It's my public apology to you if I scared you in some way, okay? But we're missing the whole point here. Trustee McAlpine has felt like this continued pattern of aggressive behavior and comments to her has just gone on unanswered. And she felt like she had no other step to take other than to file a complaint to the board and say, hey, here's what's going on. I'm tired of it, and I want it to change, okay? And then the board took on the steps that they did, and they went and hired an attorney, and that's all, whatever the policy is and the rules are, I don't know. But in reality here, Kostler would have said, hey, you know what? I acted like an ass, and I'm sorry. It would have been done. It would have been done.
Okay? But no, he can't do that. He's got to continue to come up with all of these
documents and statements and all this proof and everything that, oh, I didn't get my chance to talk, oh, la, la. You know what? All you had to do was apologize, okay? I apologize to you if I intimidated you in some way by saying our name is McAlpine, not McAlpine. I apologize. So you could have done the same thing. It would have been done, okay? So I agree with some of the other statements. This needs to be done. We need to get on with business. There's a lot going on in this village, a lot that could be going on.
I know that this woman here, the most compassionate and loving person I've ever known in my life, wants and make things happen in this village, okay? She wants to work with everybody here. She has reached out to every person
many times to say, hey,
sit down and talk about what we agree on, what we don't agree on, find out what our differences are, and let's find a way to work together.
and then what do we hear? Oh, I want to move my seat because I don't like sitting by somebody. It's just ridiculous. So let's get on with the business and get over with this crap. Thank you very much.
Hi, Dave Chapman, 859 Viridian Way. So it's with some mixed emotions that I say that I served 4 years on the village board, and the first 2 years were excellent. The trustees that came in during that election was a reform movement, and the village president, Mark, wasn't particularly liked by him. The elections happened. I certainly appreciated, and as it was explained, sitting on that side next to Trustee Dudek and putting the other new trustees over on the other side by Jeff Cross. That's why it was done. Certainly wasn't done anything personally. So I appreciate the fact that you tried to do that, to set things up. However, the last 2 years of my service on the village board were nothing but frustrating. It didn't matter what the topic was. It seemed that the party of no, led by Trustee Kostler, was whatever it is, if it is against what the village president has to say, then that's what we're going to do. And I have to tell you that was felt at every meeting. His calculated, Jim, your calculated behavior, your notation, your I'm going to be doing this, your imperiousness. You know what? You're not the king. And you didn't get to be the king. And you cannot treat people like you're the king. You're absolutely not. The way that people were treated, whether it was personal conduct or personal conversation, nobody who gives up their life and their time for public service to come and serve this great village should have to be put through all of the endeavors, meeting time after time. And Jeff, I mean, I know you tried at times. I really give you all kinds of kudos, but that's just a hard thing to see. When you know that you're out there and there are plans and there are things that this village wants to move forward to, there are things that were told by the residents about a plan that they wanted to see for the future of this village. And then the trustees come in, and granted, yeah, they were elected and they were elected. Whatever those reasons were, and then those things that the residents said get discounted. The political expediency of pandering for votes to separate subdivisions. And if you want to talk about what happened here in this village, that divergence of the people in the village of Cary and this meanness and
Are we supposed to be
hateness.
talking? I thought only the comments were supposed to be pertaining to this, and they feel that they're not pertaining to this anymore since it's a special meeting.
Oh, I thought this was public comments, but
It is,
that's
but it's
fine.
meant to be for this.
For that, okay. Then have a good time, and
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks.
I have something to ask Mr. Chapman,
Oh, yeah.
if you could. You're portraying this thing that we were always at odds,
Yeah,
right?
you and Mark, yeah.
No, you and I.
You and I always? No,
We weren't, right?
no.
And we worked together actually to get some good things done on this board, right?
On some things, yes. But I was talking about you and the village president, and so.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother issue. So I don't want to be portrayed that you were on this board and I was hard to work with.
Oh, well, Jim, you were on this board, I was on this board, and you were hard. I rose above it, and you know what I chose? I chose to ignore it because I had a higher purpose to serve the village and not to engage in that. Let me tell you, Karen sat over there, and we definitely, how I became a crony of Mark Connick's, I'll never know, because we came in and we disagreed with a lot of things. But once the vote was done, we moved on. Once the vote was done here, you want to go and change the lawyer because you didn't get the legal opinion that you wanted. You want to go and change. So, Jim, yes.
No.
Things move forward because they did, and I always said thank you on the times when we worked together. Absolutely.
And we did, right?
Yep. Yes.
That's all I got to say.
Okay.
So you're here for another reason.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the village board? I want to get back to this resolution, if we may. We've talked about some of the differences of opinion and how this was authored and some of the content that's in there. I guess I'd like to see some changes made in this, some deletions on some of these things, but I'd like to see where everybody stands right now as it's currently written. Is that what everybody seems to want? Or can we make some changes on things?
I would call the question, and let's vote if somebody seconds me.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Counselor?
So, wait, hold on. Let's be clear. The vote, yes.
Is for
in
how it's
support-
presented.
In support of the resolution, and a vote no is against the resolution, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Actually, you have a motion on the floor to call the question. Shall the question be called is the question that shall be answered and voted upon.
Parliamentarian.
He is a parliamentarian. I do miss that part, yeah.
No, calling the question doesn't require a vote, does it?
Absolutely.
Yes, it does, yeah.
Technically, yes.
Cannot be seconded, or cannot be amended.
Okay, let's vote.
So roll call.
This is on calling the question.
Counselor?
Yes.
McAlpine?
No.
Kraus?
Yes.
Betts?
No.
Weinhammer?
Yes.
Cavelli?
Yes.
Now, this is for the approval of the resolution.
McAlpine?
No.
Kraus?
What was, I'm sorry, what was the vote?
It was,
It was 4 to 2.
4 to 2? Okay,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
That was 3-3.
That's okay. I'm sorry, what was McAlpine?
No.
Kraus?
Yes.
Betts?
No.
Weinhammer?
Yes.
Counselor?
Yes.
resolution passes. Before we adjourn, there's one of these things I would like to, just a matter of housekeeping things. I just want to address on how this meeting came upon us. And moving forward, I'd like to see a change of procedure on this. This was brought to us Wednesday, the day before a holiday at noon. I was just checking out to be gone for the weekend, and I just happened to look at my email and saw that this was being proposed. I am the mayor of the village. I know some of you would prefer I wasn't, but I am, and I'm the chairman of this board. And I think that it's professional that I am to be included on when people want to have a meeting. I understand the trustees, 3 trustees can call for a special board meeting. No action can be taken, but 4 trustees is a quorum. You inadvertently used my name to call this meeting to order. I did not authorize this. I want the special meeting notice changed to include the 4 trustees that called this, just as a procedural thing. I have absolutely no problem discussing this. Calling out everybody on a special board meeting night, I find is troublesome to me. We canceled a meeting on Tuesday because there was not enough stuff on the agenda. Certainly, this is something that we could have done, and there were several people that had to rearrange their schedules to be here tonight because this is an off night. We could have easily had this taken care of on the last meeting in November, or the meeting before our last scheduled meeting. And I just think that it's just, in all fairness, to try to keep business on our regular meeting nights so we don't incur the additional costs of having people attend this meeting. And I believe I've been pretty fair to everybody when it comes to having people be heard and what they want. And I think it's only fair that I'm included in these comments about having a meeting. There's nothing wrong with saying, Mayor, I want to have a special board meeting. And my first response was, what is it going to be about? Let's try to move these things forward. There's nothing more supportive of a board than trying to work with everybody to move it forward when it comes to this meeting. So moving forward, if something like this comes again, I would prefer to be read into this so that we can put it properly on the agenda.
Okay, hold on. You were aware of the email. You never responded since Tuesday to any of this. You never wrote a single email, so don't get up there and project this image like you should have been included. You were included.
I was not included. I did not get any. The only email I got from you was on Wednesday saying that you were looking for a meeting. And then I got an email from Trustee Cavelli, Trustee Weinhammer, and Trustee Kraus stating they wanted to have it.
What are you complaining about? I'm following the rules? You're complaining about I'm following the rules?
No, I would have just liked to have been notified by phone or something saying I want to do this. That's all I'm asking.
Mark.
I don't have the authority to not hold
We
this meeting.
normally post agendas on the Friday before the meeting, which is the Friday before Tuesday. You had more than that, which was the goal, and you're complaining about it.
I'm not I'm complaining about it because it was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, which was the next day. Administrator Reif was on vacation on Wednesday. We had to do
I just
some.
got home this morning. I've been working a lot. It's hard. We all have other jobs. I get it, okay?
I get it too.
But you had proper email notification that was well ahead of the normal Friday agenda setting, and that was a courtesy I extended to you, because all the Open Meeting Act says is we need to give 48 hours notice.
Correct.
Right. So this
But
could
common
come.
courtesy would say to read the mayor in that you're going to have a meeting. That's what my issue is.
Well, the only thing I would say is that I'm not sure why we couldn't done this on a regular. I mean, it's cost the board over, it's cost us over probably $1,000 to do this tonight. I don't know why we wouldn't have done on a special meeting. Just should have been part of the regular
Well,
board
we
meeting.
didn't have a meeting last week, so.
Well, I agree, but this
Right.
could have waited till Tuesday. I don't
Could
know, did it really make a difference between today and next Tuesday? I don't know, maybe it did and I'm missing something. But I mean, if we're worried about spending taxpayer money, it's $1,000 we just blew.
I have a question.
I move to adjourn.
I have a question.
I move to adjourn.
We all get paid.
No, I have a question.
No. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Trustee Betts says, please.
I have a question. I would like to ask a question to our board here now. Now that this is resolved, can we move forward? Can we get stuff done for the village? There's other things on the agendas that could be discussed. Instead of ourselves, let's move forward. Let's try to work together and get this village, the village that it is. We all have, and I think we need to move forward. Do I have everybody with me on this?
Without
In the last email, I thought we had moved past it.
Exactly.
So I agree with you, Chris, absolutely.
I agree.
I thought we were past it until the
So,
Douglas Herald got the report.
Let's move
It
forward.
was a big step
Yes.
back.
So there's a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.